Just when you thought American policing was the only joke without a punchline, the same thing, the same totalitarian actions are going on in the UK. And before I get to this, you know it's bad when mainstream media sources, in the context of talking about police overstepping their bounds, starts quoting George Orwell's 1984. Check this out.
For centuries, Britain was a bastion of democracy. Today, it's become a bastion of censorship. Police hunt down and charge anyone who expresses what the government says is a wrong idea. Dale Hurd brings us that story from London.
When a British lawyer and free speech advocate wanted to test the United Kingdom's censorship laws, she tweeted that perhaps her cat is a Methodist because it likes Dreamy's cat treats. Then she asked a friend to report her for hate speech against Methodists to see what might happen. And local police issued a case number.
That's interesting. So she got with she typed something on the internet. She got with a friend, said, hey, why don't you report me for hate speech? The cops intercepted that, created a case number, and started to investigate her for words. Same thing you see here. The FBI knocks on people's doors, questions them about social media posts. So basically, in their eyes, you have committed a thought crime. And they, again, show themselves to be conformists rather than moralists, doing what they're told, following policy regardless of what is right. And the same exact thing is happening in the UK, but it gets worse.
Sarah Phillimore then tweeted more nonsensical posts about her pets and says she now has a police record.
And it was recorded under the heading, "A Barrister Posting Hate."
When British police stopped Army veteran Adam Smith Connor as he was praying for a son lost to an abortion while standing in an abortion clinic buffer zone, officers' first question to him was, "What is the nature of your prayer?"
What is the nature of your prayer?
I'm praying for my son.
And for that, Smith Connor was convicted of what many are calling a thought crime.
Convicted of a thought crime because he was praying for his son. What business is it of anyone, let alone a cop, to know what you're praying for? And how can you be convicted of a crime when you haven't committed a crime? See, truth fears no scrutiny, but we have to understand that truth is the first casualty in any war, including this information war. And cops are all too happy to intercept your messages, visit your house, and put a crime on your record.
Dr. Kelvin Wright, also a British Army veteran, saw his military career effectively ruined after being put through an Army disciplinary process for sharing a social media post in favor of women's rights.
Look at the post right here. If women can't stand in a public place and say men cannot be women, end quote, we do not have women's rights at all. And then he gets investigated for that. Tell me truth, rock bottom, common sense, common denominator truth is not hate speech in this kingdom of lies. Truth is the new hate speech in the kingdom of lies.
That offended a transgender British soldier. Although exonerated, Wright left the army.
So you ask me what the moral is? Well, the frightening moral is that don't say any opinions.
British police have investigated 250,000 so-called non-crime hate incidents in the last 10 years.
Why don't the police chiefs, all the deputies, all the sergeants, every person who wears the badge, uniform, and gun just decide, you know what? We are not investigating anybody unless you have probable cause that a crime has been committed, that a real material victim has been created. Don't call us if somebody's offended. Don't tell us if somebody got out of line and issued hate speech or wrote hate speech on their social media posts, whatever you think hate speech is. We're not arbiters for what hate speech is. We are only out there to protect people's individual right to freedom of speech, freedom of press, right to keep and bear arms, the right to be silent. We're only out here for that. If somebody commits a real crime, murder, rape, theft, then we're going to get them. But if somebody says words, you're barking up the wrong tree, you're calling the wrong department. That's not what we do. But they're not going to do that. Why? Because they run public relations campaigns, and they have special interest groups that are putting money into bank accounts, and they're placating and demeaning themselves and issuing threats of censorship, which does what to society? It just makes everybody a mental midget misfit.
An average of 66 every day. And some have gone to prison. When it comes to freedom,
Wow, I missed that.
incidents have investigated 250,000 so-called non-crime hate incidents in the last 10 years. An average of 66 every day. And
66 a day. 66 innocent people just posting stuff on the internet or saying something, and then the police get involved to create a crime and fabricate a criminal.
some have gone to prison. When it comes to freedom, Britain is at a tipping point. This is a nation that prides itself as being a champion of liberty. And yet some are warning that Britain is sleepwalking into a
prides itself on being a champion of liberty when almost every single person in the UK is disarmed. You can't be free unless you're free to keep and bear whatever arm you want to keep in the free market.
Totalitarian future. Toby Young, the founder of Britain's Free Speech Union.
What do we have here? What do we have here? What's the messaging?
Says a few years ago he thought the censorship in Britain couldn't possibly get worse. Now he says that was naive.
I liken it to falling through a burning building. You know, every time you think things can't get any worse and you've finally reached rock bottom, the floor gives way and you're falling again.
Some, like London Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, have been investigated for social media posts a year or more old. What Toby Young calls offense archaeology. Get charged with a non-crime hate incident and it can become a stain on your career, showing up on background checks.
No reasonable person wants to have on a police record that you are guilty of some form of hate.
After former police officer Harry Miller faced charges.
You're guilty in the eyes of the cops for saying hateful things as they do hateful things to people who just type and say words. They are the ones who come to your house. They issue the warrants without a crime even happening, without a victim even being produced. They're the ones who put their hands on you and put the torture shackles on you and then kidnap you and throw you into a cage. But you're all of a sudden the one who's a blight on society. Everything is on its head.
Charges of what police labeled transphobic hate speech in 2019. He began the organization Fair Cop to challenge law enforcement interfering with free speech. He was joined by Sarah Phillimore.
The vast majority of police officers in this country are sick and tired of this nonsense. They too have to be careful about the opinions that they express, because they too can find themselves at the wrong end of a non-crime hate incident, a disciplinary, and potentially being thrown out of the police force.
I don't buy any of that. If they were sick and tired of it, they would stand against it. They would do the right thing. They would blow the whistle on their fellow thin blue line gang members who are committing gang crime activity. And how many of those people that you just said are sick and tired within the police force, how many of them have actually stood up and said, you know what, we're not initiating any tyranny on anybody for words. You got the wrong guy. I bet zero.
I've seen far too many police officers who look like they are enjoying what they're doing.
While Britain does not have a First Amendment like the US, British common law is supposed to protect speech. However, news commentator Connor Tomlinson says you can't say Britain has free speech when only speech approved by the government is allowed.
So no, we don't have free speech in this country. Instead, if you're a Christian, if you question the open borders, mass immigration agenda, or if you say some, let's say, febrile and ill-advised things on a social media app, but you are not a member of a state-approved left-wing NGO, then you will be sent to prison.
Adam Smith Connors says his
It almost sounds like Yeah, the magistrate has laws to protect free speech. The United States has laws to protect free speech, but the cops and the judges and the lawyers just kind of ignore those laws, which harkens back to what Lysander Spooner said: whether the Constitution be one thing or another, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, as the UK has as well, or it's been unfit or unable to prevent that tyranny. In either case, it's unfit to exist.
The legal ordeal has been personally tough after he fought for freedom in Afghanistan, risked his life, and lost friends there.
I've got a profound sense of sadness that for our nation, that the fact that we have plummeted to such a depth so quickly.
In his book 1984, George Orwell depicted a future totalitarian state modeled after Stalin's Soviet Union. He probably never imagined that Britain one day would be described as Orwellian.
The idea that you can be criminalized for a non-crime, for instance, it's pure Orwell. This is straight out of 1984. As I told the police, 1984 is a dystopian novel. It is not a police how-to manual.
Young believes free speech can be restored in Britain, but citizens must get involved.
If we abandon our belief, our commitment to free speech, it'll be not just catastrophic for us, but catastrophic for the rest of the world.
The way to remedy this is to punish the criminals who are actually committing the crimes, and those are the cops that are throwing people into rape cages for mere words. So again, it's happening in UK, it's happening in the United States. The UK police force, the American police force, they are the joke without a punchline. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought, please, in the comments section below. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel further, grab a shirt, become a channel member, but more importantly, understand that freedom is dangerous, it's scary, it's unpredictable. The thing more dangerous, scary, and unpredictable, though, is not having freedom. I will see you in the next video.